I'm Chef Gary Puetz, the seafood steward, and I'm here to show you how to enjoy your favorite Alaska seafood at home. Now, some of you may be a little intimidated when it comes to buying and preparing quality seafood. But believe me, there's no need to worry. In the next several minutes, I'll give you great tips for selecting quality seafood, show you how simple it is to prepare, and give you some tasty seafood recipes that take only minutes to cook. So what's the first step in preparing a great seafood dish? Well, it's simple. Start with the finest seafood, Alaska seafood. As far as I'm concerned, the strongest argument for eating seafood at home is its incredible taste. But there are still many people who are intimidated by the idea of preparing it themselves. Preparing seafood at home is quick and it's easy once you know a few simple tips. Another reason is seafood is good for your health. We're all concerned about fat these days, but luckily for us seafood lovers, the fats contained in seafood consist mainly of unsaturated fats that are loaded with omega-3 fatty acids. Research has shown that this type of fat can play a dramatic role in preventing things like heart disease. Some studies have even indicated that omega-3s may help prevent arthritis and migraine headaches. So, seafood tastes good, it's quick, and it's easy to prepare, and it's healthy. But what makes Alaska seafood so much better? First of all, Alaska seafood grows and develops in the North Pacific, the Gulf of Alaska, and the Bering Sea. Life in these cold, pristine waters makes for firmer, better-tasting seafood. The men and women who fish the waters of Alaska also guarantee the quality of the seafood they catch through proper care and handling. They harvest the seafood at its peak to ensure its fresh-caught flavor. Then the seafood is immediately taken to local processors to keep the time between catch and processing down to a matter of hours. While the waters of Alaska provide some of the most productive fishing grounds in the world, strict management guarantees that future generations will continue to enjoy the superior flavor of Alaska seafood. This is but a small sample of the variety and abundance of Alaska seafood. There are 5 different species of salmon harvested in Alaska. There's king or Chinook salmon, sockeye, which is also known as red, coho or silver salmon, plus pink and chum salmon. Other Alaska seafoods include halibut, pollock, cod, crabs such as king crab, snow, and Dungeness, plus other forms of shellfish including prawns, razor clams, and dynamite oysters. And how can you be certain it's from Alaska? Well, it's simple. Just ask for Alaska seafood by name. The most important consideration when selecting seafood has to be the determination of quality, because that's what we're concerned with, isn't it? Quality. And in making that determination, let's not overlook frozen seafood. Now, to meet the needs of their customers, Alaska seafood processors have developed a flash freezing technique that locks in all the quality and taste so that you can enjoy that fresh-caught flavor the year round. Let's eliminate from our vocabulary the words fresh and frozen. And instead, let's focus on quality. Now, to determine quality, you need to rely on all your senses. For example, if you opt for a whole-bodied fish, make sure you take into consideration traditional measures of quality. Make sure that the scales are mostly intact, that the fins and the tail aren't frayed and all beat up, that the flesh has a firm and resilient touch, and that the smell is clean and fresh like a spring day at the beach. Now, once you've selected high-quality Alaska seafood, you'll want to keep it that way. So if possible, bring one of these, a small cooler, to keep your seafood in while you shop. And if that's not convenient, just stop at the seafood counter first and have them wrap up your order with a little bit of ice and keep it chilled until you've finished your shopping. This is also a great time to make any special requests. For example, if you want your fish cut into smaller portions, or if you want a whole fish filleted, a quality market can usually do it for you while you're shopping. Keep in mind, you'll have better luck with your special request if you make it during non-peak hours. The keys to maintaining the highest quality are fast freezing and slow thawing. Modern technology has provided us with the best means to freeze seafood known as blast or flash freezing. Now, I'm not going to get too technical, but this means the fish is frozen very rapidly in its freshest state. Now, if you've purchased your seafood still frozen, the way to maintain its quality is to thaw it slowly. This is best accomplished by placing it in a shallow pan in your refrigerator overnight. You know what's a constant source of amazement to me? It's the number of kitchen gadgets we all end up purchasing, but so few kitchens actually have a good sharp knife. You're going to enjoy cooking seafood even more if you have the proper tools. And this is the place to start. Nothing fancy or excruciatingly expensive, just these. This is a 10-inch scimitar, and as far as I'm concerned, the curve of the blade and the flexibility make it just about perfect for filleting fish. Here's another option. It's called a French knife or a chef's knife. It's the perfect utility knife. They're both available just about anywhere. Cooking stores, department stores. You might even want to stop by a restaurant supply house. Now, if you're going to cut a whole-bodied fish into steaks or cutting smaller portions from a large fillet, well, that's pretty self-explanatory. But many people tell me that they don't think that they can fillet a fish by themselves. And that's absolute nonsense because it's actually quite easy. First, you start with a whole-bodied fish. When I fillet a salmon, I always like to start with the head towards my primary hand. Well, I'm right-handed, so the head's got to go towards my right hand. So we're going to turn the fish around, and then next, I like to take my index finger and put it inside the collar with my middle finger behind the pectoral fin. The pectoral fin, by the way, is this fin called, or sometimes called, the arm fin. This gives me complete control of the fish. Next, I'm going to take the scimitar and rest it on the backbone, and literally all I'm going to do is slide the knife down the length of the fish, kind of like this. There. That's all there is to it. We'll set this aside. Now we're going to remove the collar and the ribs. First, the collar and the pectoral fin come off, and then we're going to remove the ribs. And the principle is exactly the same as when we cut the side from the backbone, only this time, rather than the knife resting down on the bone, we're going to hold it up underneath the ribs, like so. Sliding the knife underneath the ribs, folding the ribs over, and one cut. There. And with the removal of the ribs, we've also removed the peritoneum, or the peritoneal lining. That's this plastic-like looking stuff. Now, with this removed, we're going to end up with a sweeter, a milder, a better tasting piece of fish. Next, we're going to remove the pin bones. The pin bones are another set of ribs that go directly into the muscle along here, going about 2/3 of the way from the head to the tail. And if we take the knife and run it down towards the head, towards the tail, stands those bones up, then we can take a pair of needle nose pliers, grab a hold of the bone, like so, and simply pull the bone out like this. Now, there are 12 or 14 bones, and we can run down here with the needle nose pliers and pull them out all one at a time. Next, we're going to remove the skin. And to remove the skin, we're going to notch the tail end of the fish, cutting down to the skin, being careful not to cut clear through the skin. This gives us a little handle, something to hang on to. Then we're going to slide the knife between the flesh and the skin, and it's kind of a dual motion. I'm going to be pulling back with my left hand and forward with my right. And that's all there is to it. A perfect fillet of boneless and skinless Alaska chum salmon. And remember, it's 5% experience, 5% talent, and 90% a good sharp knife. Okay, now let's get started with some basic cooking rules for Alaska seafood. The first three are: do not overcook seafood, do not overcook seafood, and do not overcook seafood. Now, I don't know how or why we got in the habit of overcooking seafood, but did you know that a huge portion of the seafood consumed on this planet is eaten raw? No, I'm not suggesting we start eating raw fish, but let's be reasonable. Allow approximately 10 minutes of cooking time per inch of thickness. That means about 5 minutes per side if you plan on turning the fish. And portions like this, about 6 to 8 ounces, are just about perfect. Next, if during cooking you plan to turn your seafood, always start with the skin side, or at least where the skin used to be, up. The reason is fish isolate a small layer of fat between their flesh and skin. If you're grilling or sauteing, for example, the richness of this thin layer of fat is drawn towards the heat into the fish. This keeps the fish moist and more flavorful. Another reason is when you turn the fish, you'll have the good-looking side facing up, and everything tastes better when it looks good. If you're having crab, don't recook it. Alaskan king crab and snow crab comes pre-cooked, so all you have to do is bring it to temperature in the oven or on the grill. There are a variety of cooking techniques for seafood. The 5 main ones are baking, broiling, poaching, sauteing, and grilling. One of my absolute favorite ways to cook Alaska seafood is on the grill. Whether that's on the backyard barbecue or indoors on the kitchen grill. And the key to good grilling is to keep the seafood from sticking. Now here are 2 easy ways to do that with mayonnaise or a potato. First, you start by heating up the grill, and you know it's hot enough when you can keep your hand 3 to 4 inches above the grill surface for 2 seconds or less. Next, take a large raw potato, cut it in half lengthwise, and rub the cut side of the potato slowly down the grill until the entire grill surface is covered. The heat leaches the starch out of the potato, covering the grill with a natural nonstick coating. Now, to further reduce the odds that your fish will stick, you can give the fish a light coating of mayonnaise. Spread it on thinly with a basting brush. In this case, I'm going to grill these 2 gorgeous 8-ounce halibut fillets with a basting sauce consisting of a mixture of 1/3 cup of olive oil, 2 tablespoons of white vermouth, 2 tablespoons of fresh lime juice, which adds a really exotic flavor, a teaspoon of lime zest, a rounded tablespoon of finely chopped cilantro, the same amount of fresh minced garlic, and several grinds of fresh pepper or pepper to taste. Now we've mixed this all together, brushed it on these fillets, and now they're ready for the grill. We'll put a second coat of the baste on the top side, just like that. And about 10 minutes later, you have perfectly grilled Alaska halibut fillet. Now let's try a simple saute. Let's make an Alaska cod piccata. We'll start with 2 cod fillets, about 6 to 8 ounces each. We'll need a little bit of olive oil, a teaspoon of butter, a tablespoon of capers, the juice from a half of a small lime, a pinch of lime zest, a dash of white vermouth, plus some coarse ground black pepper to taste. Let's begin with our saute pan on a medium-high burner and add the oil and the butter. First the oil, and now about a teaspoon of butter. When the butter starts to bubble, it's time to add the cod. Remember, we're putting the cod in skin side up. And we're going to brown this rapidly. Now we're nearing completion, having cooked the cod fillets for approximately 10 minutes. Now it's time to add the lime juice, the capers, and the lime zest. It only takes about 10 or 15 seconds to brown this off. Oh, and the fragrance is absolutely fantastic. We'll now take these and put them on our serving plate, like so, and deglaze the pan with a little bit of white vermouth. At this point, we're ready to top the fish with a really elegant sauce of capers, butter, olive oil, and a little bit of white vermouth. So, and garnish with a little bit of fresh chopped parsley, and you have an excellent sautéed Alaska cod piccata. Broiling is another cooking method we're going to talk about for preparing Alaska seafood. And in this case, we're going to use a couple of beautiful Chinook salmon fillets. Now, broiling is a fairly simple way to cook seafood. In fact, all you need to do is move your oven grate up closer to the broiler element. And it helps if you have a broiling pan like this one. As you can see, I've lined mine with aluminum foil for easy cleanup. Now, to enhance flavor, I recommend you add a basting sauce, and to keep it real simple, I'm going to use my favorite Italian salad dressing that's just loaded with garlic. That's all it takes, a good baste on each piece, and then we'll take it over to the oven, slide it right underneath the broiling element, and we're going to brown that for 3 to 5 minutes on each side. Okay, we've broiled these salmon fillets for just about 10 minutes. As you can see, it's turned out absolutely perfect since they're just about an inch thick. And there you have it, broiled Alaska Chinook salmon fillets. And finally, baking. Now here's a quick recipe for baked Alaska salmon that adds a bit of a twist, because we're going to be baking this salmon on a cedar plank. Salmon is already wonderfully rich with the flavors of the sea, but when combined with the aromatic flavor of cedar, it reaches new and glorious heights. You'll need a piece of untreated cedar that's about 3/4 to an inch thick. And the size of the plank depends on how much fish you're going to be baking. In this case, we'll be cooking 2 8-ounce fillets on a cedar plank that's about 6 by 11 inches. The salmon I'm using is coho or silver salmon, and I've basted this with a real generous coating consisting of 1 cup of mayonnaise, a heaping tablespoon each of Cajun blackening seasoning, lemon pepper, and finely minced garlic with a little dash of white vermouth. Now I'm going to take this over, put it in the oven at 400 degrees, and bake it for about 10 to 12 minutes. And here is the final glorious result. Baked Alaska coho salmon on a cedar plank. See, it's easy to cook great tasting Alaska seafood at home. All you need to do is remember a few simple things. First, and most importantly, select the finest seafood, Alaska seafood. Remember, it's not fresh or frozen that counts, it's the quality. And you can rely on your sight, smell, and touch to determine top quality. Second, maintain that quality after your purchase by keeping your seafood well chilled. And remember, if your seafood is frozen, thaw it slowly overnight in your refrigerator. Third, remember the simple cooking tips. Don't overcook your seafood. Portions of 6 to 8 ounces, approximately an inch thick, should be cooked for about 10 minutes. Always start with the skin side up if you're going to turn your fish. And don't recook crab. And finally, choose a cooking method, whether it's baking, broiling, poaching, sautéing, or grilling, that works for you and the Alaska seafood that you've selected. For more information and additional recipes for Alaska seafood, just stop by your local grocery store and pick up an Alaska seafood brochure next to our display. You can also write to me, Chef Gary Puetz, and mention that you would like more information on Alaska seafood, or simply call 1-800-LOVE-SALMON. I'm Chef Gary Puetz, your seafood steward. You be real good to yourself and try some Alaska seafood.